AllReasonNoLogic.
Battle started.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to what's going to be an exciting 8v8 on Supreme Isthmus, a map with one main corridor in the middle and two sea lanes. Can we see if the blue team can pull a win over the red team? Starting quickly, looking at the blue side, we have Dabos, a Canadian OS33 player, leading the charge on the front lines. Can he secure the front and take a victory? We shall see. His opponent, Kaput, leading the red side as an OS31 player from what looks to be... Is that a Chinese flag?
I'll say yes.
I'm probably offending someone by saying it is, because it probably isn't, because I don't actually think it is. Anyway.
With Praetor, we've got Tank Tom today, and I think one of the interesting things for the start of this map is the blue side have at least one of their highest ranked players on the front line, whereas the red side has a couple of their lower ranked players on the front. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with that experience differential and whether the more experienced players will be able to support through the front lines or whether they'll end up collapsing before they can get there.
It is OS6 and OS11 on the front lines for red versus OS33 and OS9. Backing them up on the blue team, we have the OS17 in purple and the OS22 in teal. On the red side, backing them up is the OS20 player in orange and the OS26 player in yellow, so this should be a reasonably hard-fought fight. That said, even though...
You'd like to see the red side coming out with the res bots and getting that reclaim out of the middle straight out of the gate.
Definitely a strong start by trying to get that reclaim. There's over 1,000 metal in the middle, which red is going to get a massive chunk of. It's surprising to see higher OS players not going for a bot start in order to get that out. The vehicles will help hold the middle, but with 1,000 extra metal, that's a lot of extra bots.
And you can already see the metal produced graph, or the metal produced up in the top right. Red is about 1,000 ahead, basically purely from those res bots in the middle.
But Pounders coming in nice and early, they'll do fantastically against the pawns, and they will potentially push back some of those. Lazarus taking one down right there, but there still is a Grave Robber taking the last 140 metal from that side. Another Pounder coming up. It looks like red definitely has come off with a strong start despite being the lower OS starting front line. So great job from the pink player getting all of that reclaim. And looking at his...
Pounders are definitely the thing of nightmares when you've got bots on the front line.
Absolutely, one of my all-time favorite units for the early game. There is not a lot that can stop a push of Pounders. The only thing you can really do against them is do your best to micro them. Having a quick dash down look at the red player, the highest OS on the red team, is going for a hover rush. That is potentially why he didn't go the front line. Hover rush can be very, very strong if the green player is not ready for them, and looking at his side, he definitely is not. He's getting ready for a defensive C play, I guess. He's not actually going for the C anytime soon. He went with the bot slab, which is unusual for long C. Compare that
on the northern side. Purple's got a transport and getting his come up onto that northern island,
which is also a bit of an unusual play, but I do like it. Extra mechs, and as long as you get your units into the ocean, but he's gone for air, which isn't indicative of getting into the ocean, so it should be a bit of a interesting play.
Interesting to see how it goes. I imagine if a bombing run... Oh, that is a lot of conversion stacked together there for that... I'll say orange player? Burnt orange? That's a lot of conversion altogether, so if anything does get into it, it's going to make a lovely chain reaction.
Right now,
keep an eye out
looking at the green base, these hovers are in the base. They've cleared up the front mechs and they're heading on in for the green player. They're getting damage on those wins. An LLT is coming up because one hover managed to get in ahead of the others and blow their cover, but that is still a series of LLTs into the back of the base, and they're pushing on through. and we'll see where they go. Having a quick check on the front lines, it looks like a bit of a stalemate. The tanks holding their ground super hard with twin guards backing them up, but we have an agitator coming down, which is going to push all of these defenses that red has back. So that's going to be a nice blow for the blue team to deal, though with comms on the front line, if they act fast enough and see the agitator coming up, or if they act on the agitator coming up, I should say, they're still not aware of it, then they
That
should be
agitator's
able
going to take a little while to come up.
Yep.
They're metal stalling with the build on it.
If only they'd gotten that early metal, hey? The agitator's actually in range of the Overwatch, so as soon as it's seen, it will start getting shot. But the Pounders in front, providing a decent solid line, looks like it has been seen, so the Warden can now start targeting it, which it has. Those Pounders have to push up and take the Warden, but there won't be enough. You need a couple more Pounders than that to do it, especially with that front line. Or I could be wrong, because the Warden is not even trying to target them, it's trying to get the snipe, and it fails. But there's no defenses in front of it, and these thugs should clear it up, which they have.
And with that agitator going down before it completed building, there's no corpse to be rezzed at all, so all of that metal gets lost.
Expensive loss right there, and it was very close to. But that means that the currently still just a stalemate, though the blue team does have their mexes up, which the red team cannot because of the location of the front line. So a little bit of an advantage, but a gauntlet is coming down for the red team, and it looks like it's going to come up much faster than the blue teams, and that should push the blue team back. Green putting up a big defensive wall against those hovers, but red has migrated into the ocean, and if you look at the amount of ocean control he's grabbed he's grabbed all the ocean mexes, and is now grabbing, looks like he's moving to grab the island mexes with those hovers. So the hover start has paid off for the red team. Looking at the North Sea, very little going on right there. We now have a ocean lab in from the Lilac player who went AS early to get that island control. Looks like the comm
they're going to get some defenses up there with their comm, so that if the burnt orange player does push out, they'll find those relatively early, and it looks like they've got most of those mexes out in that ocean, so sea-wise, they're relatively even at this stage.
And that's what you'd expect. Short sea usually does win the sea battle early on, but then that gives them the opportunity to push through. Having a look at the front line, blue has managed to get a Tsar out, which is going to be the first T2 unit on the front lines. A Tsar push can be very strong, but it is fighting into a gauntlet and an agitator, which is a rough spot to be fighting into, but it will be backed up by an agitator of the blue teams momentarily. We'll see
nice
whether
to see
they
those
keep it
ticks
up.
coming out from Teal to help support that Tsar. I expect we'll start to see those moving through the front line in a second.
Good for the red player. They've seen the agitator again, and they've pushed up with the thugs. But the Tsar is now plowing through on the other side. So much damage every single shot. Com down to 15% health. If it can target those, it will take it out, but it doesn't look like it's going to be targeted. Good invisible walk away. Lots of damage on that Tsar, though, and running away like this, it will be taken out by the gauntlets. So, unfortunately, those resbots not fast enough to get the healing on from it. They need to get the reclaim or the D-gun on it.
I was going to say, I would like to see them eat as much as they can of that, yeah.
They're going for a risky reclaim. I mean, it is going to be a fast... no, they've backed off. With those gauntlets there, I never even would have tried that.
Yeah, I would have tried to reclaim as much as you can, because that D-gun removes it from the field, so you can't res or reclaim that corpse anymore.
They definitely could have gotten at least half of it, about half of the metal back, but it looks like blue team's front is crumbling. Oop. Have we had a player leave? Not yet.
Not that I'm aware of.
That's right, we can cut this out in post, or we can not. Players taking the opportunity just to talk, not really sure why. Oh, Blando is lagging behind, that is why the pause has been called, to let him catch up. Good opportunity when this happens to talk to your team and organize something. Take a moment to look around the battlefield and see what's going on. Red perspective, they know that they know about the blue ocean. Sorry, the blue team ocean advantage on the north side, but they only have very limited scouting information for the rest of the bases. Looking at the blue team's knowledge,
Don't have
they
a whole
have
lot of information.
to use actually I won't use an Australian saying because this is YouTube and it's friendly for all ages. We swear.
We tend to swear lots, but we at least try and be polite about it.
Yep. So yeah, the blue team not managing to get any sort of scouting across based on how long this this pause has gone. There we go, and we're back. Right in time for a tick spam to come right across. What will these ticks manage to do in those
Will probably
numbers?
be enough to make it through if they just charge.
They're targeting the
Ooh, that's
comm,
gotta
and
hurt
that's
the comm.
plenty. Good comm snipe right there. Saw the
With
comm
the
and
surround,
the
you don't
surround
need
bonus is so strong.
when you
Question
have
is,
units on two sides, you end up dealing essentially double damage to it. So when you end up with that many ticks running through, comms fall incredibly fast.
just another pause. Someone else lagging behind. Unfortunately, from the spectator view, we can't see this. Based on how much pausing has been happening, there is a really good chance that you won't hear any of this pause commentary and it will be cut out. So we're going to pretend to be very excited when it resumes, and you're not even going to know how long we were here. Or if we leave this in, special little bonus clip for you.
Who do you
Oh,
reckon's got the advantage at the moment?
oh, look, I thought red, like up until that tick push, it was red.
Yeah,
Because they
they've
just killed the
got the
Tsar, they've got the gauntlets up the front firing, they've basically got the front line on lockdown. But
and they
then when
look to
that
have the
comm
flow of
went,
units to the front. That opens that front line up a lot.
yeah. And also, if you look at what's happening on the just to the left of it, because purple or lilac
Ah,
controls the
the
ocean,
ocean
he's
now.
shelling in on in.
Yep. And
So
that means that that pink base is going to be under heavy fire
I
quite
mean,
shortly.
well, look at the range of it. It can hit the conversion that's in dead center. So if he shoots the if he can get any sort of scout on and see this conversion, one shot will take out the build turret and a lot of the wind. Thankfully, wind in sets of 2, which means it won't chain react, but that's a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having a quick look at the green base. That's a lot of defenses for the ocean. That's a wall. That's pawns. That's 10 LLTs. What is this player going for? Because
The thing is, by the time that defense becomes actual
relevant.
viable, whatever walks through it, it's just gonna keep on walking.
Yeah.
Where
I
are we at with
don't
P2's
love
things?
this. I'm just having a quick look at the stats. He's very low on the damage dealt. He's not too bad for metal income, and he's not too bad for energy income. So I guess it's okay. I'm being overly critical, I guess. It is only 10 minutes into the game, but for 10 minutes in, I'd like to see more than 19 wind and some converters. I know he's got the geo up here and some more wind up there, but it's... And we're back! And exciting front line where we've just had a comm go down, quick pause given by the players because someone dropped out and needed to rejoin. But looking onto the left side, we have the Navy coming in and supporting the front. Blue struggling on the front, but those ships are going to be the bane of the pink player. Potential damage is insane out of winning a Navy. And the pause is undone. So let's see, we'll keep track of these and see just how far they get. Pushing in a little bit further, they will get that gauntlet in range, and it should be a great little, agitator in range, and that will definitely alleviate a lot of the front pressure. But
Blue getting a lot of the reclaim out of that middle.
that's exactly what they have to do to get back in it. They need to get the metal from the front lines and reinvest it so they have a standing army. That comm snipe bought them time, but they need a bit more.
Agitator round 3. Looks like it's going to go down again.
Look, Red has just been on this. Oh, sorry, Maroon has just been on this for taking out those agitators. That is 3 times Blue has failed to establish one.
And
What
they've got
a
them 3/4 built every time as well, which
and
hurts.
so much metal. That's probably almost 1,000. That's probably almost 2,000 metal lost at this point just from failed
Despite
agitators.
the fact that Red lost a comm on the front lines, I think they probably have the advantage again here, because that blue comm looks like it's
It's
about to
gonna go
fall.
down. It's gonna get some
There's
good
only so
D-guns
much D
in,
gun can
but it
do.
cannot run away from this. You have to stand and fight, but that is another comm down. The shelling on this side is going quite well, but the agitator keeps turning and pushing them back, and they're putting units there to control it. Tick's trying to get a run by, but not overly effective. Jumping to the South Sea, we've had ships stopping the green player from getting into the Navy. They're currently fighting with some anemones, which are the torpedo launchers. Not a fight you want to take while you're in range of them, but using a attack command on an area, they have managed to deal damage, but they don't realize it yet. They're in range of another one recently built by the com, so great defense coming out of the green player and the teal player, and a lot of metal reclaim for whoever wins this battlefield. Jumping back on down to the middle, the last of the defenses have fallen for the middle, and a T1 push backed up by Sheldon's is now starting to march its way into the blue base. This
Having
is
that massive T2 on the front line makes a huge difference. You could see when Blue threw the single Tsar
oh,
early without the units to back it up isn't anywhere near as effective as this small ball of Sheldons that have units to support them, and
the,
that consistent firepower is going to do some work.
the Tsar was a great call, but yes, as you said, it wasn't backed up properly. It went in too fast and too hard. Didn't have time for the ticks to come in and form a shield for it. Didn't have time for the units to rally around it, and it ended up being taken out by fire from the agitator and the gauntlet. But these Sheldons just getting the damage they can, fighting at the edge of their range, which is perfect for what Sheldons have been made for. If you
A
keep
few
these
mexes in a Geo is well worth the investment so far, and they've taken out a bunch of build towers as well.
and eventually when the T1 continues to build up, or the Sheldon numbers continue to build up, they will be able to push into this blue side. And blue does not yet have an answer there, pushing out as many pawns as they can. A whole series of pounders are pushing on through, but how slow the pounders are, so long as the Sheldons walk away, the Sheldons will just pick them down, just kite them away.
Yeah,
So
those Sheldons and Rocketeers having the advantage. They can keep the pounders within range and just keep on dishing out that firepower as they back away.
at least though, blue managing to push back to the middle line, so they aren't taking damage on their buildings, on their build power at the moment. And that's what you have to do. You sometimes have to sack some T1 units just to keep the fear into the T2 players, because
Yeah,
an
once you hit
early
T2, T1 essentially becomes expendable. And if you have to lose a T1 army to hold a position or to, at least blunt that T2 attack, it's generally worth throwing them into the middle of an army just to get done what you can. Because if
the
they end up sitting there, they become essentially meat shields and nothing else.
the lilac player, the light purple player, managing to take down one of the gauntlets, but there is another one already built to take its place. So unfortunately, just throwing Navy away to this choke at the moment. Needs to do something else if he wants to change the shape of this battlefield. And right now, with Sumos on the front line, the shape of this battlefield is not overly great for the blue players. Doing their best with a
Collapsing
negotiator,
into blue.
definitely collapsing on in the
Cerberus
negotiator.
coming up on that Geo for blue.
Oof, that Cerberus is going to be great, and so is this negotiator, getting a great shot and destroying the support units around the Sheldons. They're doing their best to take it down. It's being healed, but it is not being healed fast enough. The Cerberus goes down, and one of the best hopes for taking out those Sheldons is gone with it. just
Those
not
10
quite.
build towers didn't have enough healing to be able to keep it alive despite doing their best.
And one of the reasons for that was because those sumos decided to sack themselves and get in on it as fast as they possibly could, and now they're pushing on in to try and get the damage they're done. Sumos so tanky at this stage of the game. They aren't they're not the most cost-effective unit once you start moving into T2 fights, but man, when they're fighting
Against
T1,
T1, they've got a lot of staying power,
it
and I
just
suspect
feels
they're going to make it into those wind farms.
like you can't kill them at that stage. And even though the front line is falling, it looks like the green player is just spamming out some dolphins to reclaim the Red Sea. And that is exactly what has happened. Com goes down on the front line for the blue player, doing their best to defend, but the front for the blue player really is being destroyed. A couple of Sheldons coming from the teal player to try and back this up. With the ticks on the front line, they may be able to do something, but the line of scrimmage is slowly moving forward. A Persecutor popping up to try and defend this. Some T2 units finally trickling on through from the rest of the players, but this is going to be a hard-fought battle from behind. If we take a moment to look at the back of these bases, we have a fusion up from the yellow player. We've got an Aphis coming up for the red, and a fusion that's already up for the red player. The air player has transitioned well and truly into T2. Fusion coming up, advanced fusion coming up for the pink player, fusion up for the orange player, and I don't know what this is. I'm not even going to comment on the light brown player, mustard colored player. That is the most interesting eco I've seen to date. But looking at the backlines for the blue team, there really is not much in the way of fusions coming on up. We have 2 fusions for the light green player, 1 for the dark green player, but the rest of it is just wind power. And
Green's managed to get into the red navy base and took out a bunch of the energy converters there,
but
largely using their own defenses.
great timing from the green player attacking when the transition to T2 is happening. As someone who plays a bit of Navy, the transition into T2 for Navy is rough. It is very, very rough.
Yeah, it takes a lot of investment to get there. Good to see that Navy swinging past the front line on its way through as well. Not that it's done a whole lot, but it at least
It scared
deals a
people
little
back.
bit of damage to that on the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Often you don't need to do huge amounts as long as you can put the fear into the other team.
Looks like we've got an air raid coming in from the green player. Oh, and a nuke. A nuke coming across from the red team, and it's going into the air player. What a hit. No anti-nuke at all on
Wipes the
in that
entire
back
base
corner.
and leaves the commander on
Oh,
about a quarter health.
it missed the anti-nuke zone by this
that
much. Wow. What a shot. What a shot. The air pulled back before being destroyed, so good on them, but front is holding. And that means that this is all the air that the blue team will have for a while. Unfortunate on that anti-nuke location. Had he built it there instead of there, it would have actually covered his ally. At the moment, only covering himself. Very selfish anti-nuke. Looks like the purple ocean player has done exactly what they needed to do by switching it up and getting some T2 artillery to pump on in. Messengers have essentially destroyed the frontline pink player, so that is partially why the frontline hasn't fallen. Great job from the North Sea helping out, but snipers now on the front line for the red player, though they're in range of these messengers, and messengers are going to start dealing damage. We'll see if he can take out the snipers, because those are the biggest threat right now.
Looks to be that those messengers are raining down on the Cerberus. They should be taking that Geo out shortly.
They've definitely swapped targets, going for a shield. I don't know if they know this, but missiles aren't affected by shields. Interesting thing about a messenger is it fires a missile that then explodes into what looks like bombs. Question is, do they punch through shields? I don't think we're going to find out today, because
I suspect they do, but a good push coming in from blue at the moment.
all those frontline pawns, and this is why pawns are such a strong unit. Sometimes all you need them to do is tank damage and get behind to get the surround bonus. But all of these units have punched on through great damage and great recovery by the blue player. This is quite a, like, I keep thinking one team or the other has a big advantage, but they just goes to show that some of these higher level players are absolutely able to turn a game around.
And a second nuke's gone off and hit the other back line for green.
He had an anti-nuke.
I didn't see exactly what happened, but it definitely landed.
But he had an anti-nuke with a nuke in it. I even checked that one. We're going to have to grab onto the replay of this.
Wonder whether it could have been something like this spy bot.
Yeah.
If that had gotten in and disabled the anti-nuke.
We will do a breakout cam and show you exactly what happened there.
About 21 minutes.
But what a back and forth game this is turning out to be. Blue's definitely got the advantage at the front line at the moment, but they've also got 2 players down from that nuking. And Red's reclaimed the C, has reclaimed the C with some help from Ducks from the yellow player.
We might see those green defenses actually do something shortly.
Against Ducks. But we've got the teal player pushing on into the eco of the maroon player.
Great to see the blue side continuing to push on in. Yep. Now that they've broken that front.
And having
that stream of pawns in keeps any units that do happen to be there busy. You can see these Sheldons
were just firing on ticks, and that's allowed this ball of units to stay up. Now, one of the things you can do is micro against that. You can actually just not attack the ticks and let some other unit deal with them, but that is constant micro. Also, we've got the Navy trying to push this back, but these ships too short of a range. What's going on up here? We just saw something happening up here. Not sure. The players are pinging something up there. There we go. Yep, that's exactly what's been going on. Spy bots have been coming in to take out the anti-nukes, and it has hit another anti-nuke. Is there a nuke coming in? Good question. Doesn't look like there is a nuke being fired yet.
Not quite.
Great bit of damage over on the orange side. Wow, this game is really going back and forth. Anti-nuke intercepts. So
yeah, I was going to say that nuke's just coming out.
Did take out one of the did temporarily disable one of the anti-nukes, but it was covered by another zone.
So, they've done some real damage with those spy bots and nukes. Being able to knock out the anti-nuke and then drop the bombs has been absolutely devastating for that blue back line.
Definitely one of the favored strategies.
If Red can get any leaks into the boss, the blue player on the front, that's going to be absolutely devastating, because if he falls, I don't know if they've got enough to be able to continue the fight.
Yes, the blue player certainly holding up more than his fair share. Multiple fusion reactors coming up. Yeah, the difference between a MR33 an OS33 and an OS17 is huge, considering 17 is the starting point. So almost doubling where you started from takes a lot of wins to get that far. Having a quick look around, looks like the pink player is coming online with tick spam. Has 2 APHIS, getting a third one while the tick spam is ongoing. But we have the Ducks trying to surface on the front line, not quite.
And you can see the effect that those have had. They've pulled a whole heap of units off the front line to deal with them, despite the fact that the Ducks were never actually going to be much of a threat. It was largely just showing themselves
and now
to manipulate where the blue front line's sitting.
And now that the pink tick spam is coming on in, how the teal has been for the past, the amount of fire that is going onto them instead of going onto the frontline units is tremendous. Big shots coming off.
There's going to be a nuke on its way to the front line from pink, looking at those pings.
But it is being intercepted. So good anti-nuke coverage. Getting one right up on those front lines. So not going to keep allowing groups to come on through. They also have a Nemesis which is a counter-intrusion system that lets you see those cloaked units that they've been sending into game vision. But look at the effectiveness of these ticks. Each one of these ticks is taking so many shots to take down because of its speed. Even though it only takes one hit to kill one, so much
You have to
damage is
hit,
being expended on them.
and you can see that all of those Sheldons are on a fight command, but because there's always a tick within range, they just never get the chance to move forward because they're always shooting at something.
You have to actually manually move them forward with a pawn line in front of them, or with these mammoths, those work. 2 mammoths great at taking out ticks, and then you got to manually target your units. Even there, we just saw a couple of units getting taken out by the negotiators, by the friendly negotiators, because it thought a tick would be in that location, pre-firing where it thinks they're going. Rockets coming on down, and look at them, they're hitting their own units.
Yeah,
All of
if you can
these...
get things like ticks inside the enemy lines, any of their ranged artillery will still try and hit your ticks, but it'll also take out a whole chunk of their army from collateral.
You don't even need to get it into the line, you just need to get it about that far away, because then it fires where it thinks it's going to be.
Hmm.
So that's a bit of a lesson for anyone who's watching this one. You got to very carefully fire with your negotiators, with your long-range rockets, because they can do way more self-damage than you expect.
Strong showing from yellow here with all of these mammoths. That's 9 mammoths sitting on their front line, defending.
Spam not going to get through this, and a lot of firepower needed to punch through to the snipers, to punch through to the Sheldons. So even though the unit seemed to be in favor of the blue side, anti-nuke intercepted, no worries there. But even with the
I like
stronger
this
units,
composition from having those pawns ready to move through them as they're hitting the front line.
it does look good
well.
when you get a formation like this, but they've deployed the pawns a little bit early. Though definitely getting in there. If they can get any closer, shots from artillery will definitely start raining out, but unfortunately the pawns were deployed just that fraction too early. But snipers backing up these mammoths going to deal a heck of a lot of damage. Quick look at the navy from the red side. That is a strong navy, and they are shelling the geo up the top.
The geo that they know is going to be there.
Always going to
Red
be
Navy
a geo
did
there.
push the green commander out of the water.
There's
they were
still
shooting at it just before.
Green Commander getting dreadnoughts up to try and fight this, but that is a big navy. Having a quick look back at the...
I found with Navy, you tend to need more units for firepower rather than specifically higher powered individual ones.
Certainly.
There is bed bugs in the ocean there, though. So they will probably do some decent damage to that Navy.
Oh, if these bed bugs get underneath and detonate, there's a duck shooting at them, but that is the bed bugs underneath the Navy. Oh,
It
unfortunately,
looks like they're just
not
dying
quite.
underneath rather than getting that
The
controlled
detonation.
explosion.
Oh, those could have been huge. Those could have been absolutely huge. I've seen entire navies go down to a couple of bed bugs. A few more coming on in, but will these ones actually make it? Good question. Oh, they're right under. They're getting hit by torpedoes. It's a late old D. Oh, big damage. Big damage. Taking out a section of the fleet. More of them coming on in. This is going to be a continuous fight. Blue tries to push in with pawns, but no dice. Looking at the defenses of the mustard players, those have gone down to 2 messengers. Those artillery ships, great range on those. Quick jump back, having a look at the eco. We have advanced fusions coming up for the blue player. He is certainly taking over on the eco side of things, but so too is the 2 backline players of the red team. They're matching reasonably well. Currently, income is in favor of the blue team. Of the red team.
The red team.
Almost 1,000 metal to 750 and 54k energy to 35, but that is also spread out, and there is a lot of attack avenues still available for the blue player. The blue players.
Blue has a very strong front from a unit's perspective at the moment.
Until messengers arrive and start shelling it, because messengers will do ludicrous damage to that front line.
Yeah, and that front line isn't very far away from the eco center either.
It is not. Thankfully, the Eco Center, even though 5 fusions is a lot to lose, and same with all that wind, it is being replaced by advanced fusions in the back line. Though, realistically, at this stage, I almost would like to see more units than more Eco to try and balance this out, because
That's a lot of air for the light yellow player there.
Oh, damn. But these are all... this is mostly a mix of fighters, so we have... In fact, I think that's an entire fighter wing.
I think it is.
So, not actually overly effective where it is right now. Would be better served with some torpedo bombers, but that is a flagship for the red side player. That flagship, if they can defeat the green navy and then move that flagship into position, that will be a crumbling of the front line.
That looks to be enough support that I suspect that the red should own this sea shortly.
Yes, two dreadnoughts gonna struggle very, very hard against an Epoch that's backed up by a couple of the ships. Though a lot of those ships do appear to be flagships, so mostly the Epoch for damage. Looking up at the top side, the Lilac player has managed to get units into the back lines, a Salamander push through the area that he's been shelling continuously. Not much here to stop this, an LLT, and that is really it. If these are put on a fight command to just punch through the base, or if they're designated to target these clumped up wins, because chain reaction is a thing.
Run through that base. You don't have to kill the entire thing.
Oh no, walking straight at the comm in a line, D-gun fodder, but they swing out the way just in time. No D-guns coming out from the comm. That is not what you want to see. Nuclear bomber coming in, but that is the entirety of that player essentially down.
Such a lovely fuse when you end up with that many energy converters all stacked together.
Spread your stuff out, people. Just do it. If
you're going to clump it together, it needs to be behind the defensive wall, where if it falls at that point, you are going to be dead no matter what.
Spread your stuff out, please. Because those units could have had to spend... those units may have had to spend way more time destroying all of those wins, and they may not have made it into the build power, may not have made it into the conversion,
and you can see that the Fiends have made it across now, so if you delayed them by 15 seconds or so because they had to run around killing things, you likely would have saved that base.
Not to mention the nuclear bombers were there to clean it up very, very promptly. So if they'd been only near some wind...
bombers have probably got a good chance of being able to punch in.
I mean, there's barely any air. There's enough air to shoot them down, but not before they take out, say, the green player or the frontline fusions of the blue player. But the Epoch is now starting its shelling.
Act as meat shields for that yellow player, so that any air defenses that are there will take those out first if they are used as sacrifices.
Salamanders.
Bedbug's still coming in under this red navy.
Unfortunately, though, there's not enough numbers to take out an Epoch. It's doing about 6% per bomb, which is just not going to get them where they need to go. Salamander's still trickling into the bottom side, but getting cleaned up by those Fiends, and now the shelling is starting for real, and the pushing is starting for real. Large amount of pawns ready to push across. We have, oh, so many fat boys pushing across as well. This is going to be a lot of damage. Tick wave running straight into all those tigers.
To start pushing those fat boys.
And the Epoch is... it's running into shields at the moment, but 1 shield, 2 shields, not enough to stop an Epoch. Some Shivas on the front line, but those fat boys are getting their shells in. And this is a lot of damage to the front defensive line for the blue player. I don't think this will be the...
bombers on the way in.
Oh, atomic bombers targeting the wrong units. Those were not on... those were either targeting the wrong thing, or they were not set to hold fire. Some of that nuclear damage actually doing them in. If they'd been able to get a little bit further, they could have taken out some of that conversion. More ducks and ducks coming in from the blue player to try and take out this Epoch, and it's fighting into some Morays, which are the advanced torpedo launchers. Ducks, a fantastic unit against sea, but will there be enough here? Because a lot of these
doesn't
units...
look like there's going to be anywhere near enough to stop that sea.
And
Ducks are definitely better in the water than on the land.
In fact, Duck's pretty bad on the land. If we have a look here, we have a single tick that's pushed on through. Hero tick, unable to do anything, gets eaten by all of that build power back there. But he could have been good. He could have been the hero.
He'd
But
definitely done some work. I think I saw 3 chefs before he
did you know if you
disappeared.
get a tick with max XP to the back lines, it turns into a Titan? I swear you
I
should
was gonna
check.
say a queen, but
I mean, it would be a queen if we were playing chess, but it's a Titan because that's the best unit in the game. So obviously it's going to be that.
so which unit's the knight then?
The duck, I think, isn't it? It moves weird. That must be it. Oh, second epoch up. This shelling's going to start getting real, and depending on where they go, they should actually be pushing towards the blue line and just filling that whole area up and taking out all those wins if they can. The
Marauders up
fire,
for pink as well.
the
Interesting to see where they come out of the water.
sorry, pink as in the lilac player, or
He's here.
oh yeah, wow, yep, missed those completely, and I was basically looking at them.
They look like they're gonna come up outside of that defense, and you can see that front line for blue moving across to deal with these, and these fiends are gonna come in accordingly. So those marauders are gonna pull that front line, and the rest of the red team is gonna push on in.
Great defending by the blue player. Pawns and a com, great units for taking on the marauders, but a couple do push on through, and they do take out a com. The doesn't look like it's going to be enough to do much more damage than that, but that was very, very close. And once you push past those initial defenses, not a lot you can do. And all of the spam got pulled back, allowing these 2 epochs to get lots of fire down on the front lines. The epochs do quite well until there's some things like pawns and ticks running across, unless you're manually controlling them. Some torpedo bombers coming in to try and see what they can get done, but plenty of
There's
flagships.
enough anti-air that's not a concern at all.
2 ballisticas are continuously shooting at those epochs, trying to take them down, but as you can see, it takes a lot of shots from them to take them down, doing
And
a couple
epochs
percent.
on repeat out of that.
Oh, 2
E2
more
labs,
coming
there's another
out.
2
That's
on the way, and a
gross.
3rd one getting built.
Income of almost 400, almost 400, actually, when I don't know what's bumping him up so high at the moment, but yeah, eco of
Lilac
almost
pushing into
400.
orange again on the top side.
Ooh, these should be big, though he's concentrating so much with these T1.5 units. I don't mind that, like, I loved the first push, but I would have ecoed hard off the back of it, and then tried to push into here with a tier 3 submerged lab, because they know this is a vulnerability and they've dealt with it. They put pulsars
There's
here
3 pulsars.
and snipers, and they also had the wasps. It just wasn't going to be a push that you could make, and so a lot of those resources for naught, when they could have been turned into some sort of eco to allow for a T3 push instead. But
And now there's going to be nothing that makes it through there.
Blue going for
That's
a
enough.
desperate push out across the front line. Huge capacity for building pawns, but they're doing a good job drawing the fire from the epochs. Those epochs should actually be pushed forward and shelling things, useful things. They're fighting ducks
Looks
at the
like
moment.
they're trying to get as much of the reclaim as they can off the front line here.
Oh yeah, that's actually, that is worth the push if they do get the reclaim. Huge
They've lost
metal influx.
a whole lot of resbots in the process, but they're getting metal while they're doing it.
And
There's about
sacrificing
10,000 metal on the front. I would
sacrificing
happily
pawns for
sacrifice
that.
plenty of pawns to get a decent chunk of metal to keep funding the rest of the economy.
Not even a question as to the worth of that. Something which I really want to see out of the air player on the red side is some torpedo bombers. This blue side has constantly had to deal with ducks, just constantly ducks, and that's basically the only threat on this side. We already know that the air player from the blue side was essentially crippled. If that air screen laid across the middle of the map and actually included some torpedo bombers, you'd find that the red player would take the game. The red player would be able to push up, destroy the blue front, destroy the blue eco, but it's only anti-air, realistically, and a couple of niche things and eco that this player is building. Look, I love high eco play, don't get me wrong. This number of APHIS is beautiful, but you actually have to do something with it. You always have to do something with it. And that's the choice that you've got to constantly make. And right now, we're just at a constant front. The front of the map is just a non-stop clash between spam
Green's
units.
gonna come in with those ducks on the side.
I don't know how much damage they're going to get done.
Looks like they've decided against it.
Yes. But green has been doing fantastic to keep a presence in this ocean. It's just this one little area that he keeps being able to control and build.
And res subs to...
Oh, that's a pause out of those players. I think someone is... we're not seeing a lag behind. We're getting spam pinging on... Oh, we're getting spam pinging for a calamity. Please let this get up. That would be fantastic. We have labs on the front line. Excellent.
Oh, that's great to see.
Excellent. What? Oh, this game has this map has everything.
If you're gonna be up against pulsars, you may as well overwhelm them with trash.
Uh-huh.
Because they can only shoot one thing at a time, and they don't shoot overly often.
Yeah, but there's
So if
also
you can-
6 snipers, a bunch of fiends, and time to react. So we'll see how well this goes. But I do love the ingenuity. Anytime you build on the other team's side of the map is fun.
Yeah, and that's a better use than just throwing more of those salamanders at the problem.
It's also
they're
a
no
better
longer
use.
effective.
It's also a better use than having 5 epochs that only have 84 kills between them at this point that are constantly backing up and not doing anything. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Get those to the front
5
line.
epochs in your base
Is not good. And I get it. There's ducks. Ducks scary. You own the sea, man. Just get
when
some
you have that many
submarines.
epochs, an equivalent number of ducks is much less of an issue. I think more of the concern for this red player is that he's lost the reclaim.
Big tick push across the middle. Not a lot being done with it. These units have the AoE to stop something like that, and the friendly fire is... Oh, the amount that these teams are producing now, the friendly fire is not a big deal. Taking a quick moment here for an eco check. The blue player is up to all of the APHIS. All of them. 27 APHIS. And looking at the back lines of the red team, we've got 33 sitting in the back, plus others scattered around. Looking in the top right corner,
relatively even.
it's so even. That's crazy. And energy is slightly in the favor of the red team. But if you if you look at the graphs, they're not spending it as compared to blue team, which really is. So good on blue team for being more efficient. The spam is somewhat making it through the front line. They're making it through the orange's front line. Pulsar's not going down, but a couple of the snipers and a lot of the fiends going down. So this continued pressure from the lilac player, although it's not the most efficient ever, it certainly is starting to work.
Keeping them busy and drawing some resources up onto that coast.
Got a push up of those pawns in the middle line and a huge number of Kargis trying to march their way through. They're trying to get to the Calamity, which is now firing, bouncing off all of the shields. Are we going to get some ricochet shots? We do. Ricochet shots going all over there. And the question is, are there enough shields to stop this area from chain reacting? Looks like there might be.
I want to see this blue air raid coming through on the northern side.
Oof, that's quite the... Is that fighters though? Oh no, those are bombers. So even though we've got all of these bouncing shots going on over here, the air raid is coming in, and all of these fighters in the wrong place. They're coming across now, but will the bombers make it through? The bombers going for close targets. They're going for the Ragnarok, which is not the worst call. All of those fighters, though, punching on through and saving it just in time. Even though the fighter stream was somewhat out of position, it's so much and fast enough that it manages to deal with it.
Blue does now have vision of what's going on over the other side, though,
which is a very good thing. But they're now taking the shelling damage from all these epochs. Finally, torpedo bombers on this side. They're getting shot down by a lot of the flak, but again, the red player
work while they're there.
And the red player just is not balancing what he's bringing to the front line. He's only playing reactive and not considering what could be coming. But the
In these
epochs
situations, you
are...
have to think of what's the thing that will beat yours, and
Yep.
then build a unit or two that counters it.
When you're in a
A
winning
lot of
position, it's all about determining what the lose condition is and preventing it. When you're in a losing position, it's all about determining what the win condition is and forcing it to happen.
bar is rock paper scissors. There's
Rock,
no
paper,
one
scissors, lizard,
unit to.
Spock.
Yeah, pretty much. Then you have
These
to try and work out how you're going to win the next 2 rounds as well.
bouncing shots just taking out some of the wind on the far side, but all of these epochs are now finally punching through and dealing damage. Now they're on the front lines. There's so many shots that come out of this. You need so many shields to try and stop this. More ricochet shots and shields coming up all over the place. The shield density is crazy, but with all these epochs firing, there is no way that these shields can stand up. Absolutely no way. And what you actually want to do is get the Ragnarok firing on them as well, because look how quickly they've punched through all of these shields. Add the Ragnarok's firepower to this, because it takes 7 shields to block a Ragnarok, as long as you're doing that little bit extra damage. But all those battleships go down to a couple of catapults. Most of the defensive fleet has been taken out. Good work with those catapults from the blue player. Ragnarok's being somewhat effective, but not overly so.
As we were saying, rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. Find the thing that counters what you're up against and run with that.
Hey look, the LLTs are finally going to come into play, as we've got Titans marching across. I mean, look, he has since got pop-up turrets. The pop-up turrets will actually do quite well against the Titans, but I'm just pointing out the investment. Oh, ricochet shots coming on through, and that is so much wind. Every wind patch that wasn't a 2x taken out just by a couple of ricochet shots and some splash damage from the winds. Chain reactions. Love chain reactions.
Looks like that's manually targeting at the maximum range.
Excellent. When you're using a Ragnarok or a Calamity, manually target that, please. Otherwise, it will fire at ticks.
Because they're also slightly inefficient, it means that if you do fire at the maximum range, there's a chance that it'll
go that little bit further.
Just that little bit further.
And if you aim at the shields and ricochet them off, like what's happening here, you can hit players that you didn't think you could otherwise hit.
Like backlines.
Game mode we've thought about trying to do before is using ricochets to kill your opponents, but unfortunately, because of the way shields work, you can't bounce off of friendly shields, which would have made that game mode amazing. Orange has kept that defense going on quite well over here, shelling from the Lilac player going into these pulsars, stopping this area from being built. But at the moment, it's just a slogfest. So much damage coming on through.
With 7 Thors on the front line, a number of
Razorbacks, all backed up by pawns. This is enough health that they're going to push right on in. Pawns already
with
at
those
the
epochs
fusions.
shelling from a distance.
Yep, the shield's going down, and the Ragnarok's now the Ragnarok and the able to fire on in. Got the fusions down, getting the wind down, and we have
Titans coming in through green as well. And this looks like it should be the start of the blue collapse.
The start of the blue collapse, almost certainly. Titans absolutely decimating those LLTs, didn't stand a chance. And those pop-up turrets did well, but not enough. Titans, quite the beefy units.
Fighters on both sides this time to catch that blue air raid.
Excellent, and this time actually pushing on through to try and fight it. Though they actually might not go wide enough. The blue is actually getting bombers in on that far side, but does it really matter when all of the build power and all of the conversion for that mass amount of APHIS has gone down, and we have the shelling coming in, starting to deal damage to those APHIS. We're about to get an APHIS pop. There it goes. Almost all of Blue's eco is down while the Titans march. They're fighting a Juggernaut at the moment, or just ignoring it and killing the T3 lab, but that also works.
I
So
mean,
much
if you can
healing
stop the
going
next
down, it
ones
takes a
coming in,
while. But
and you've got that many there.
yeah, you want to get damage. Damage to the eco is far more important than killing the Juggernaut, and that's exactly what's happening. They're targeting those APHIS. That's the
And as you
second
can see,
eco
the
block
Juggernaut will
going
still be
down.
there after the eco's gone.
Yep. And the Juggernaut doing its absolute best to defend this, but he does not have the firepower to kill the best units in the game, which are Titans, just by the way. And all of the damage dealt, all of this, all the units pushing through, and it is now down to the last dregs of the blue team. What a fantastic play by the red team. Continuously one step ahead, great defenses on the front line, fantastic holding using those gauntlets to zone control and stopping the blue team from getting theirs up. The top navy just unable to quite push on through. We have more and more
I think
damage
one of the
punching
key
in.
differences was those early nukes being able to get in and take out the blue backline, and then the
Definitely.
teamwork just to keep the pressure on.
I'd almost forgotten about those nukes, but you're 100% right, and a lot of that actually came down to the anti-nuke placement. They had enough anti-nukes, they were just selfish with them and built them in the middle of their bases, so not quite enough to protect your friends. Remember, this is a team game, so playing an 8v8, you've definitely got to protect your team.
And I think that's what we see. Um, the red side look out for each other and was supporting each other,
That
and
is
that's
the resign vote coming from the blue team. I feel like purple isn't going to quite want to call it quits just yet because he wants to play with his two Juggernauts. Juggernaut's about to fight into Welders. I think this is going to be Juggernaut favored. Those shotguns, very strong, and those lasers, let's be honest, they're Juggernauts. It's very hard to stop a Juggernaut. Gonna see
yeah.
how far
Surround
they can
bonuses
push
are
on in.
great, but they only go so far.
But getting hit by the pulsars with that surround bonus, huge damage coming in from each pulsar shot,
Hmm.
and a Titan coming on in. That is the surrender vote out of the blue players. Fantastic job out of the red players. We were a little worried at the start because of the slightly lower OS on the front lines, but what a play. So much eco, so much front line, and all vectors, all possible vectors of fighting done in this game. In fact, you might say this was everything but the kitchen sink. Quick look at the graphs, damage dealt. You can definitely see the red player and the blue player, the two highest OSs in the game, creeping their way through that entire time. For metal produced, the blue player catapulted everyone from about the 14-minute mark, and considering he was also helping on the front line, what an excellent play from him. Absolutely
A lot of that
phenomenal.
comes from the reclaim off those frontline battles
Hmm.
that blue controlled early on.
You can fund almost your entire eco by winning the front line, and you can do it faster than just ecoing in the back line. Looking at energy produced, it's the same story, blue skyrocketing on that one. Quick jump, looking at the statistics, damage dealt was surprisingly even, and that's actually fair to say because the whole thing happened in one choke at the front. But overall, looking at the metal produced, it was 3.5 to 2.5, and looking at the energy produced, it was 226 million to 154 million. So red managing to get that eco advantage the entire way through, and then finally pushing it across. Big chunk of that due to those nukes taking two players out. There was never really a full recovery from that.
Those nukes and keeping the pressure on the front lines with that spam going through in the artillery, backing it up so that blue never had a chance to really get a foothold going again.
Phenomenal work out of all the players this game. And I think that's going to be everything from us. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like and subscribe. Jump on into the comments, let us know what you want to see next. And if you want to play with us, or if you want us to cast one of your games, then hit us up on our Discord, link in the description. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.